There was once a man so wealthy that the next 7 generations of his family could have lived comfortably without ever working a single day. Vaults filled with gold, silver treasures, dozens of servants, and a magnificent mansion larger than anything most people had ever seen. He had everything. And yet, every night before going to bed, he would walk into his treasure room, lock the doors behind him, and spend hours counting his gold coins. There was one fear that never left his mind. What if one day I lose all my money? The more wealth he gained, the stronger that fear became. One night he had a dream that changed his life forever. In the dream, all of his wealth had disappeared. His mansion was empty, his servants were gone, his business had collapsed. Even worse, the people who once praised him no longer recognized him. Some walked past him as if he didn't exist. Others laughed at him. He stood alone with nothing. Terrified, he woke up in the middle of the night. His heart was racing, sweat covered his face, and for the rest of that night, he could not sleep. The next morning, he heard that Buddha was staying in a nearby forest. People said that those who met Buddha often found answers to the deepest questions of life. Desperate for peace, the wealthy man immediately went to see him. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, take a moment to subscribe and join us for more life-changing wisdom and powerful stories. The wealthy man bowed respectfully before Buddha and said, "Master, I have everything a person could ask for. I have money, property, influence, and success. Yet I am not happy. I live with constant fear. Every day I worry that everything I own could be taken away from me. Please tell me why." Buddha looked at him calmly. For a few moments he said nothing. Then he smiled and replied, "Come back tomorrow before sunrise. I will answer your question." The man agreed. The next morning he arrived before dawn. Buddha invited him to walk through the forest. The air was cool, birds sang in the distance. The wealthy man expected a direct answer. Instead, Buddha simply continued walking. After some time they arrived at a small village. There an elderly farmer sat outside a tiny wooden house. His clothes were old, his home was simple, he owned very little, and yet, his face radiated peace. Buddha approached him and asked, "My friend, you seem very happy. Tell me why?" The farmer smiled warmly and replied, "Master, I have enough food for today, my family is healthy, I work honestly, and every night I sleep peacefully. What more could I ask for?" The wealthy man was shocked. How could someone with so little be so content? As they continued walking, the question stayed in his mind. A little later, they reached a riverbank. There, a young boy was building a castle out of sand and mud. He was laughing and enjoying himself. Suddenly, a wave rushed in and washed the entire castle away. The wealthy man expected the child to cry. Instead, the boy laughed. Then he immediately began building another castle. Buddha asked, "Aren't you upset that your castle was destroyed?" The boy smiled and replied, "No, it was only a sand castle. If it disappears, I can build another one." The wealthy man listened carefully. Yet he still didn't understand what Buddha was trying to teach him. As the sun began to rise higher in the sky, Buddha led him to the top of a hill. From there, they could see the entire kingdom. The city, the markets, the farms, the roads. And in the distance, the wealthy man's enormous mansion. Buddha pointed toward the land below and asked, "What do you see?" The man replied, "I see the city, the markets, the farms, and my home." Buddha nodded. Then he asked, "Tell me, who lived here 100 years ago?" The man thought for a moment. Then he answered, "I don't know." Buddha asked another question. "And who will live here 100 years from now?" The wealthy man fell silent. For the first time that day, he had no answer. Buddha smiled gently and said, "This is the source of your suffering." The man looked confused. "How?" Buddha replied, "The things you call yours were here before you arrived. And they will remain after you leave. You are not their owner, you are only their temporary caretaker." The words struck him deeply. Buddha continued, "Money itself is not the problem, wealth is not the enemy. The problem begins when money becomes your master instead of your servant." The man listened carefully. Buddha went on, "You believe you own your wealth, but in reality your wealth owns you. You spend your days protecting it, worrying about it, fearing its loss, thinking about it every waking hour. You are no longer the master of your treasure, you have become its guard." At that moment the wealthy man's head slowly lowered, because deep inside, he knew Buddha was right. For years he had been so busy protecting his wealth that he had forgotten how to live. He had forgotten how to enjoy a sunrise, how to spend time with his family, how to appreciate simple moments, how to feel grateful. He had spent his life collecting money, while losing peace. That day changed everything. The wealthy man returned home with a new perspective. He still managed his business, he still earned money. But he stopped allowing money to control his mind. He spent more time with his loved ones, he helped people in need, he supported his community, and for the first time in many years, he slept peacefully without counting coins. Without checking his treasure, without fearing tomorrow. Months later he returned to visit Buddha. This time his face looked different. The anxiety was gone, the fear had disappeared, and in its place was something he had not felt in years, peace. He bowed and said, "Master, I still have the same amount of wealth I had before. Nothing has changed on the outside, yet everything feels different." Buddha smiled. "That is because you no longer cling to your money. Now you understand it." The man asked, "What is the greatest lesson about wealth?" Buddha looked into his eyes and replied, "Money is useful when it stays in your pocket. But when it settles in your heart and mind, it becomes a burden." The wealthy man never forgot those words, and from that day forward he no longer measured his life by the size of his fortune, but by the amount of peace he carried within. Studio moral of the story: making money is not wrong, building wealth is not wrong, success is not wrong, but attaching your happiness to money is one of the biggest mistakes a person can make. The day you begin to see money as a tool instead of the purpose of life, you begin to experience true freedom and true peace. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories and timeless wisdom. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today.